Hi guys, welcome to Counterpoints. My name's Connor. I'm a science fiction, politics, and philosophy nerd, a Marine Corps and law enforcement veteran, and I would argue a real Republican. I am going to be breaking down the Lib Learn drama in which Primecayes, a debate panel host who is kind of leftist, went on to the Lib Learn show and yelled at them, and they yelled at him. So it should be fun. Let's see what they fight about.
Hey, as long as there are fascists, right, according to Hutch, as long as there are fascists, then yeah, welcome them in. If they are avowed fascists, but they have a D in front of their name, would you welcome them, Hutch?
If it gave us the majority, yeah. Let's flip the incentive here, okay? Like, would you guys vote for a segregationist in your state if it meant...
Hi, Machiavellian, or Marchiavellian.
...getting single-payer healthcare? If you knew for sure that you would get single-payer healthcare.
And there were no other, like, mid to long-term negative effects that I could calculate?
Some kind of single-payer
just one
thing,
Senate
right?
vote. It's just one crucial Senate vote, okay, right? One crucial Senate vote. So the guy can't, like, unilaterally go and do a bunch of shit, but you knew you'd get single-payer.
So we have a Democratic Party that has abandoned the working class, that has abandoned in the conversations the LGBT crowd, right? Because we don't want to be too woke. Honestly, doesn't deliver for racial minorities. This party actually talking about like hey, being okay with segregation. I don't think that's so crazy. I think that there's a point in time we can.
Nah, man, come on.
Sure,
You think it's so?
Well, within.
Well, guys, welcome to Live and Learn, the only politics show that lies to you only 30% of the time.
Based?
I am one of your hosts, the Soy Pill. With me, as always, is the flyest white guy, IRI. Hutch, the only gamer who doesn't say slurs.
True. Listen, I gotta hit a little bit of lore right here. All right, with a little bit of lore, Hutch is a Call of Duty gamer, but now he's like a liberal, and I would say he's less progressive than everybody else. He's still chill with trans people. He's still chill with racial minorities. He's still like a chill dude, but he's a liberal. He's more liberal than the rest of these motherfuckers. Primecayes is, like I said, a lefty panel host. And then Pisco is a lawyer who I would say is a mix of liberal and progressive. It kind of depends on the topic for liberal and progressive. Soy Pill is super progressive. Like, he's just unapologetically pro Mamdani. I don't know if he's a socialist, but he's pretty far lefty. IRI, though, okay? IRI says I think he's liberal progressive. He's like a mix, but he's like a super pragmatic electoral dude. Like, apparently his electoral analysis, his electoral analysis is second to none. And also deep lore. Okay, deep lore. He was the pretty fly for a white guy from the music video from The Offspring. Take a look at this. So, give it to me, baby. Give it to me, baby. Give it to me, baby. And everybody says I'm pretty fly for a white guy. This is IRI. Damn, I really could have just played the song instead of singing to you. Hold on, this is lyrics. Let me find the music video. Bum, 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 bum. Where's the music video? It's not the... Oh, this is The Offspring. Okay, so it is The Offspring. Oh, here we go. So let's find him. Let's find IRI. There he is! That's IRI, bro! That's IRI. So hold on, let's do it.
Just to get along today, our subject isn't cool, but he fakes it anyway. He may not have a clue and he may not have style, but everything he lacks, well, he makes up in denial. So don't debate, play us straight. You know he really doesn't get it anyway. Gotta fight our feel and keep it real. For you know it, for you know it. So if you don't break, just overcompensate. At least you know you can always go on with it. The world needs one piece of. Hey, hey, do that brand new thing.
Give it to me, baby. Shit, what a classic. I hope we don't get copyright struck for that one. What a classic.
Pisco Liddy, the man who loves titties, and
True. Let me go ahead and throw this on 1.15. I think I see Dylan Burns in the chat.
and Primecayes, our special guest today. Hello,
Yo, Prime, how we doing?
Hey, if you tell me to stop singing, I'm going to sing more.
Oh, hey, nice to see you all. Nice to haven't talked to
And yes, Josiah did leave Lib and Learn.
IRA in a long time.
What's up, buddy?
doing
Nice to see you.
oh my God, is there ancient lore? Are you guys old
Hi, Silver. Good to see you.
argue mates or argue against
We've known each other
And-
for years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh.
as long as you have a 1% difference of opinion, right? Well, I mean, your argue buddies on Twitch. But no, IRA has always been quite stand-up person. Always enjoy talking to him.
All right.
It's
right
so
on.
good to have you right before the great day of election day tomorrow. I mean,
Ooh.
this will be a very interesting to get your take on stuff. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for being so kind as to invite me. I appreciate that.
Those
Yeah.
polls are kind of tightening, though. I don't know.
Are they?
A little
Are
bit.
they? Which polls?
Yeah. Well, there was a poll that came out that I just saw a moment ago that had just like a 4 or 5 point difference, and I don't know. I think Cuomo has in the aggregate like tightened the race a little bit, but I think the average is probably like 7-8 point lead at this point.
I mean, that's the case for any like election, right? Like the polls tighten near the end. I mean, that's when people are actually paying attention. Like there are people who have who've had no idea about this race until like the last 3 days.
That's true. Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background there, Prime, since I think you and I are both on or I think everyone here is rooting for Mamdani, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about your political background and why you're so excited to see his what looks to be.
Please go. I'm firmly on the sex offender train. Okay, that's
True based. Blood123 says, I worked out yesterday for the 7th day in a row, and I managed to do one plate, 135 pounds for 5 reps for one of my sets, and I did lower weight for my other sets. What was the exercise, if you don't mind my asking, for 135? Was that bench or was it something else?
like
Some
my
of the
one
memes are-
policy.
What?
It's one policy issue. I always vote for whoever diddled the most people. So
Do you think anyone here supports Cuomo?
No. I know. That's why I corrected
cool
it.
guys. for
Everyone.
Cuomo.
Hi, Dylan. Good to see you.
Everyone on this panel, but especially you, Prime, because this must be like a really like I don't know, a very exciting moment for you, because you not only are you just like supporting Mamdani because he's a Democratic candidate, because it's exciting, but because in terms of like ideology, there's a lot of overlap there, right?
Yeah, certainly. I consider myself a socialist, but it's
He said he is or isn't.
I consider myself a socialist.
Kill me now.
But it's I don't what I expect out of Mamdani isn't necessarily some sort of socialist revolution, right? Like I don't expect him to do the things that I would want to do, right? And to like cordon off like Wall Street, you know, like set up like an embargo on like the physical Wall Street, right? And fire cannons into it. No, he's not gonna do anything like that. But it's like giving, and this is always risky, right? But like still giving leftists actual an ability to shine, right? An actual ability to govern. He's coming in with a popular platform, so popular that he's.
Hold on. Let's do a quick show for everybody, okay? Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. And then I'm also going to plug, we have a community member. The Oilers have already oiled, so don't oil further, okay? But if you have dollars, you're just joining chat. Here is a link for a GoFundMe for a community member. I'm just going to bring it up real quick. It's Mr. King Solidus. He's having issues with his shoulder. Looks like we've already raised around $655. And then here is what's going on. He's a working class fella. He's got a family. He wants to play with his boy again. He needs to get around $2,000 in order to cover the medical expenses to get his deductible met so he can get an MRI and get his shoulder taken care of. So if you want to donate to the GoFundMe, I just plugged it in chat. And then also I'm going to shout out Dylan Burns. Dylan Burns TV is a friend. We've been friends for quite a while. He was one of the first debate panels that I ever went on. And he just released a documentary with 73,000 views from 2 hours ago, or not 2 hours ago, 2 days ago. And it's actually on the Pokrovsk front line. This is a Ukrainian city that's on the realm of being overtaken. And Dylan was on the front lines hanging out with artillery crew who were actually like, dude, watch how psycho this is. They get coordinates, they roll out, they fire artillery stuff at Russian positions, and then they have to flee the location so they can get away from Russian counter battery. And here's like a morale officer who's hanging out with the young people. Here's a FPV drone taking out a vehicle. And by the way, these are the vehicles that Dylan is hanging out in. Dylan is rolling around in Ukraine, hanging out with Ukrainian service members and Ukrainian civilians, watching the war go down. So this is kind of crazy. And then there's another guy who is surviving psychologically by the skin of his teeth. Here's some of the drone manufacturers, all that kind of stuff. So effectively, if you want an actual boots on the ground, eye level view of the Ukrainian war, then I cannot recommend Dylan Burns TV enough. Go check it out.
He's cucking the governor, right? She's coming to him, to his rallies, trying to get some of his shine, right? And then getting booed by the audience, which is great, right? And pretending, oh, she didn't hear it. He has captured the popular, the attention of the nation, right? So much so that like.
Nice. Bud123 says I was repping five reps for bench press 135. Dude, I hate to say this because a lot of people view 135 as like the start point of working out, but it took me 3, maybe 4 months to get 135 because I hadn't worked out. Like I'd worked out before. I'd done calisthenics and all that kind of stuff. But when I got to Iraq, I started lifting consistently and people tried to start me at 135. That wasn't happening. I had to rep like 80 pounds. And then I had to go up to 90 and then eventually 115 and then eventually 135. And then once I got to 135, I was able to rep 135 for probably like about 2 months. And then from there, I was able to build up to like 155, eventually 185. And then before I was done, I hit 220 as a personal max. And I was really proud of that. I know a lot of people don't think that 220, or a lot of like weightlifting people think that 220 is casual. 220 is not casual to me. So yeah, thank you. Doobie for 100 says, if you DM me the GoFundMe, I'll run a fundraiser on my server this weekend. Okay, that's fair. And all of you guys hate Doobie so much. You all hate Doobie because he's Varys, the spy master from Game of Thrones, and yet Mr. Doobie is willing to help a bro out in the Twitch and YouTube political community. So why am I supposed to hate Doobie just because we disagree on the Red Sea crisis and terrorism? Why am I supposed to hate Doobie? He donated $100 to me to help me fundraise for a community member, and you guys want me to hate Doobie? Get the fuck out of here.
Other races, other important races.
I'm sorry for interrupting the flow of the content. I'm just having a good time. I promise I'll settle and we'll actually move through the content and I'll pay attention to the content. My apologies.
Have gone to the background. Everyone's focusing on Mamdani. So I like that. I'm also terrified, right? As some humans, right? I'm terrified that, the forces that are arrayed against him will, during his period, be able to completely stymie and destroy his candidacy, or not candidacy, his time in office, right? Yeah, his mayoralty. Thank you. His mayoralty.
I don't know what.
That's right. And then like that'll be an example of failure, right? And so what it'll play out as, right, in such a scenario is that, oh, okay, well, when leftists are in office, right, like this ends in failure, so we shouldn't bother, right? Meanwhile, corporate Democrats have been in power, right, forever, right, for even like talking about modern history, like the last 40.
Thank you, Doobie, again for the oil. Much appreciated.
Years, right, and had endless failures, but those aren't counted against them. So like once you take power, the last thing I'll say, once you take power, like that's a risk, right? Because then it could be held accountable, right? You can't just not just from the outside.
His whole tenure will be a mandate on Dem socks and the far left progressive politics. In the same way that like as soon as we let women like own businesses, every time one fails, it's like, see, they can't do it.
That's why I'm curious. Wait, that's why I'm curious. I want the first question because you said something there that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. As someone who endorsed Mamdani during the primary and who wants him to win. You said, oh, it was so great when Kathy Hochul came out and she got booed. Like Mamdani's success is going to, I think it's a good thing if more institutional Democrats are willing to work with Mamdani, given the benefit of the doubt. I've been on this podcast, I don't know if you're aware, like heavily.
Holy shit, I hate this so much. You guys understand? Let's say that the Republicans truly lose their fucking minds, as if they haven't already, right? But let's say that rather than getting their shit kicked in the midterms and getting their shit kicked in local elections, and they're like, dang, you know what we need to do? We need to become unironic segregationist anti-Semites. Let's just say they're like, damn, Nick Fuentes is the face of the party right now. And they go even further right than Trump. And I'm like, you know what? For pragmatic purposes, you know, I'm becoming a Democrat, quote unquote. There's still going to be a fight for me with you guys, with the liberals, where I think that Pisco, Soy Pill, and maybe to a lesser degree, IRI, you guys are way too fucking sanitized into the far left. You are way too comfortable with the far left, and it pisses me off, and it will be a fight. It'll be me and Hutch fighting people like a motherfucker over how far left you guys are willing to go.
Advocating for this cooperation between more moderate centrist Democrats and like endorsing Mamdani, that kind of stuff. And so when I hear you be like, oh, it's so good that Kathy Hochul got booed, this is someone who wanted to primary Kathy Hochul for her weakness on Mayor Adams and stuff. But to the extent that Kathy Hochul is necessary for Mamdani's success and for the Democrat success and for exciting the base, et cetera, don't you want her on the team?
No, I absolutely do. I want her to bend the knee, and that's what she's doing.
That dude, this is why I can't hate Prime. He just says exactly what he thinks. Socialists don't want to be on your team. They don't want to be your pet. They want liberals to bend the knee to socialists.
And so like that excites me, I'm saying, right? I think it's hilarious that she's on the back. That's what I meant by that. Not that I don't want her on a team, right? I think it's hilarious that it's shown that she's on the back foot, that she's not popular, right? And that she needs Mamdani more than, well, I won't say more than he needs her, because he does, like, as you just said, right? Like he requires her to, like, for the mechanics of like getting his policies through. But I guess maybe they're more on an equal footing. I'll leave it there, right? With like the energy and excitement he brings in, right, and simply the status and power that she currently has now. But yes, of course, I want her, to do as he says, do as he desires, really.
And I don't want to prime you to grill you too much, Prime, but I'm a little hesitant of the narrative of the powers that be. There are people that don't want to see Mamdani succeed, but I'm hesitant of some of his.
Like me. Audacity for 10 says, what's up? Decided to stop being a casual and went to bed listening to Horse Heresy on YouTube. Woke up to Escape from the City from Sonic Adventures 2. Autism is tough. Agreed.
Policies, right? Like I'm not sold on rent control, but I do like a lot of his other stuff. Now, if some of these things don't work, if he does win, can we definitively say that, like, I don't want there to be this narrative of like someone sabotaged him? Like, what if, like, would you attribute any of his policies to not working because of what they are if they don't work?
I mean, it depends on what we're talking about, right? Like, there can be a scenario where I'm saying, well, I would say like, okay, well, he had a chance, right? He put in the policy that he intended to put in place, right? And then it failed spectacularly. Turns out this doesn't work, right? And yeah, I would lay that on his feet. And I'd say, as a left of people who have supported those policies, well, we need to go back to the drawing board.
Okay. Prime, when you
would you though, Prime? Would you though? Just to be real, or would you say, nah? You would come on. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying that I'm still like the excuses would be made, saying, oh, he was undermined by this. He didn't really get to do what he wanted. I mean, don't you feel like people will say that on his behalf?
Absolutely, copium is a thing. Yeah, copium is the absolute thing, right? But again, it depends, right? Because I think people on your side, IRI, right, will and I'm not putting this on you, right? I'm just saying people on your side of the spectrum here will absolutely do what they can to undermine this person and make some bad faith arguments, right? And again, not that like doesn't happen from other sides as well, right? But it's just how it'll shake out. So yeah, that's to be expected, right? People are going to craft a narrative, right? That's what we do in politics. We craft a narrative for the general audiences to understand, people who aren't following this, right? So that they can have our opinions on these things, right? Rather than any other opinion, right? So there's going to be a lot of money, a raid to craft a narrative, whether he's succeeding or not, right? Whether he's actually passing policies that are work and that are received well by New Yorkers, right? There is going to be efforts to craft a narrative to say it was all a failure. It was all fair. So don't try it again, right? Certainly don't give him another shot, and don't spread this to other cities.
Well, let me just say, and I'll pass the mic here. I just want to say, I hope he succeeds. He's got a D next to his name. He's going to be a Democrat. So I don't want to see any Democrat fail. So I'm really rooting for him, and you're not going to hear me criticizing him or trying to say he's bad or anything.
Yeah. One thing that I just want to say, I'm not saying that you would be doing that.
One thing that we've talked a lot about on this podcast is like going to be his ability to deliver on his agenda. But Prime, do you worry that you're setting a standard that he just can't possibly meet? I feel like all four of us on the pod here, we have a pretty realistic sense that, you know, he'll be able to do some things unilaterally, but he's going to need the legislature and the governor to do any kind of tax hikes. So that seems a bit sketchy, although she's indicated that she might be open to that kind of a thing. But he's just walking into this mayorship. What do we call it? The mayorship with
mayorality, or
I think it's mayorship. Yeah.
With a lot of institutional opposition to his broader agenda. Should you really hold it against him if he can't sort of move mountains and deliver 100% of his legislative agenda or policy agenda?
No, not necessarily. I'm saying like I don't feel like it's weird to say that I'm holding him to one possible standard. I think I'm being very realistic. I'm understanding that he has the entire, a lot of the institutional weight of the Democratic Party against him, and certainly all the Republican Party. He's
getting personal phone calls from Obama. I mean, he's, I understand that he's divisive, but that's a pretty powerful show of support right there, right?
Oh, Obama called him. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I didn't say that.
Wait. That's Democratic royalty. That's Democratic royalty.
Sorry. First of all, I don't, and maybe my information is old because I haven't been following the race like every now and both. But did Obama endorse him? Has he campaigned?
No, I didn't hear that actually. No.
I don't know about endorsement.
Okay, so,
he
called him then, right? He took up part of his valuable time. Oh, that's wonderful, right? I guess you should be grateful.
No,
Whatever.
but it's a sign. It's stopping short of an endorsement. I think what Hutch's point, and I think that you know that, right? Like, yes, and I think it's sweetness. I think that he should endorse.
I don't care. I don't care. That
you don't care,
right? No, I don't care. Like,
this is a Democratic socialist.
So I'm probably going to say this before, and I'm going to say this again, and I might say this repeatedly throughout this thing. Okay, Prime and I would argue that Prime and I are internet friends. We've known each other since 2020. I've been on his panel show a whole bunch of times. If he invites me, I'm going to go. And, generally speaking, I would sweep for him as a friend. If somebody was accusing him of being like a vile piece of shit, then I would sweep him and be like, no, he's a pretty nice guy. That being said, we viciously disagree on politics. And Prime, in my opinion, is showing you, is Prime like a thought leader in the far left? Probably not. Is he a political operative within the far left? Probably not. But is he, to me, indicative of the normal attitude of a far lefty within the online political space who is willing to tolerate other political factions, but he wants it his way? And the answer is yes. So when he says, Obama calling him and saying that he would be open to mentoring him as a political figure, that's not enough for Prime. He wants Obama, the former president of the United States, to a liberal corporate, a corporate liberal, maybe a little bit progressive in some areas. He wants him to bend the fucking knee to leftists and socialists. He wants them to not only endorse the candidate, they want liberals and progressives to endorse the policies that leftists are bringing up. And for leftists, for those of you who don't know, my definitional difference would be, I'm writing these things down in the Microsoft Paint, but a liberal would be a mixed economy capitalist who are okay with moderate tax rate, who support women, racial, sexual, and religious minorities, and their freedom and dignity. That is actually how I see liberals, is that they're capitalists. They're okay with some level of redistribution and welfare, but they also don't want to be taxed through the nose. They're okay with a certain level of taxation. And then they also generally support women, sexual minorities, gay minorities, whatever, sexual, social, religious minorities. But at the same time, they're not communist. They don't believe in a moneyless, stateless class of society. They don't believe in the decommodification of basic human needs and workers owning in the means of production. They don't believe in that shit. They don't want to go that far. That's too far from the policy standpoint. And that's where I would say there is a civil war between liberals and leftists within the Democratic Party. And not just that, progressives kind of bridge this gap, because progressives are oftentimes socially progressive, meaning that they see the world as flawed and they constantly want to reform it. Well, if you constantly want to reform the world, and we already live in a pretty free society with mixed economy capitalism, and yet we still have all these problems with like racial, sexual, religious, social minorities being bullied by the broader society, economically, socially, whatever, then I think that it's almost natural that progressives will want to progress, not just with social policy, but economic policy, in order to institute what they view as a better justice. So progressives, in my opinion, liberals are the people who are hanging outside of a funnel, an ideological funnel for leftism. Progressives are the funnel for ideological leftism. And then at the bottom of that funnel, you have socialism and communism. So that's where, for me, liberals being way too friendly with progressives, and there's some sane progressives and there's some totally batshit insane progressives, and then them being like, oh, well, you know, at the bottom of this funnel, there's some useful people that we can use for our own political ends. To me, it's almost the same thing as conservatives using the far right for their own political ends and then being subverted by the far right in the long term. That's what I'm worried about. That's genuinely what I'm worried about. So I view liberals as naive.
His weight behind him, that'd be one thing, right? To be like put his weight behind him, but he's not actually doing that. You're saying
naive about their political position.
He had a conversation. Great. What am I supposed to do, right? Am I supposed to go?
It was a private conversation where Obama relayed that he found Mamdani's campaign to be inspiring. It's not an explicit public endorsement, but you know, that's not nothing. And I feel like well, hold on, just real quick. Let me
finish real quick.
I feel like someone in your position should not be so like allergic to that kind of power. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of like pushing that away.
What are you talking about? I'm like,
well,
hey,
no. You're taking this like actively hostile kind of position when it comes to Hochul and Obama. But this is a guy that's a democratic socialist poised to become the mayor of the most populous city in the country. And so, and he's getting support from these like unlikely figures. And you're like,
that's not support.
Well, Prime, I think the idea is, yes, Obama didn't come out and be like, I'm fully behind Mamdani, which would be ideal, obviously, from that person in power. But for most mayoral races, if not all of them, Obama is not involved whatsoever. And by putting his name next to it, going from
the Democratic Party, yeah, I know.
Well, I just think that it's at the very least above a positive or above a neutral, excuse me, which is positive because you now have headlines of Obama attached to Mamdani. It's not as far as you'd like it to go, but it is helpful, I think.
Yes, just like Obamacare, right? I mean, it's something, right? Not as far as you like it to go, barely useful, but like, I mean, it's something, right? And so we give Obama a pass, right? Hey, he called, right? And so I guess leftists should sing his praises. Look, Obama, who has spent his time, right, outside of office doing Netflix documentaries, right? Like pretending to be above it all as the country burned around him, right? He's finally decided to step out and talk to someone. And,
I feel like
what am I expected to do with this?
I feel like people with your attitude lend credence to the idea that the establishment should pivot to the center instead of trying to work with you guys. Because
okay, that's nice. Whatever. Yes, I don't give a fuck.
Well, you're not exactly incentivizing like a friendly coalition, are you?
I don't care.
Well, what's your goal?
My goal is to increase human flourishing, right? And I think to do that would require leftist positions.
It would require power, right?
It certainly does require power, but that certainly doesn't require groveling. That certainly doesn't require someone getting amnesia. It doesn't require getting amnesia about like the past 20 years, right? Misremembering the Obama years and misremembering his post-presidency, and all of a sudden being ecstatic that he gave a phone call.
Oh, yeah. But
without actually putting
no one's
any actual institutional weight behind it.
Well, yeah, but no one's asking you to be like, oh, thank you, God King Obama, for taking 10 minutes out of your day. It's more of just like acknowledging, like, oh, this is good for Mamdani. He's getting former presidential recognition. This will catapult him into a higher tier. It's not like the difference between winning or losing, and an endorsement would obviously be more desired. No one's asking you to say thank you to Obama. It's just this is a good thing.
I agree. Well, then, okay, fine. Then I can give you this. If that's all you're asking, right? Well, here's what I'll do, right? As I think Soy said previously, or maybe it was Pisco, whether this is, on the scale of bad, neutral, or positive, right? It's slightly past neutral into positive. Hooray. I thank you for more crumbs, President Obama.
I want to get to something, I mean, probably a little bit halfway, which is there have been legitimate criticisms, I think, of Obama's post-electoral victory behavior, including him dropping off the map after his first election win and not really doing anything with the grassroots coalitions that he had built from an electoral perspective.
He actively dismantled it. He dismantled Obama for America, right? That's what happened.
And then also in Trump's first term, being conspicuously quiet. I know that was like a norm or whatever that other presidents did somewhat. I mean, I don't even think it was a fully consistent norm. There were other former presidents that were incredibly vocal in American history. And so, and by the way, this is not just a lefty critique. People like our favorite person to talk about, Ezra Klein, have said similar things on their show about, Obama and that coalition dropping the ball, and maybe not being in sync with some of the rest of the famously not in sync with Biden himself, not in sync with Kamala Harris, and seemingly having his own view of how the party should go, but also like not intruding. So, folks, what do you think about Obama? Do you think there's anything to Prime's critique here, at least from a non-leftist perspective?
Well, I mean, when you compare him to previous presidents of decades prior, he's certainly broken precedent with how much he's been like vocal. You could argue that he could have done more in the era of Trump, and I might agree with you, but he's definitely.
So I want to explain this to you. While they were talking, I was doing this drawing, and I also think that Primecayes' perspective is wildly unpragmatic, right? And what I mean by that is Obamacare was what was possible through the legislature at the time. Not a lot of people were crowing for socialized medicine. As a matter of fact, if you look at the middle class and the upper class of society, they were opposed to, did I say socialized medicine? I still think that's probably true. A lot of people were absolutely opposed to that. And so the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, what it did is it added everybody, the working class, people with pre-existing conditions, people with cancer, people with this, people with that. It added everybody to the insurance pool and guaranteed that they would get some level of service. Prior to the ACA, that was not true. If you had a pre-existing condition that a private insurance company was made aware of, they could drop you, or they could just not offer you coverage. And then your options were insanely expensive insurance that you likely couldn't afford, or you could just go to the emergency room when you were on the verge of death. And oftentimes this would bankrupt entire families. And as a result, if you were unhealthy in the United States and it bankrupted you, you were just fucked. And then eventually you would become so fucked that you could get onto Medicaid. And that's like, basically it was like skill issue. And plenty of families were taken out and taken down into poverty because of how unaffordable health insurance was if you had a pre-existing condition. If you were healthy, if you were middle class, if you were upper class, it was awesome because health insurance was super fucking cheap, even for like reasonable plans for a family. But so it took all those people, added it to the insurance pool, forced private insurance carriers to offer some plans to people with pre-existing conditions. And then not just that, there was a bunch of subsidies. So in order to make it affordable, what they did is the upper class folks and the middle class folks, they increased the insurance premiums for the upper class and the middle class, and the taxes, I guess, for the upper class and the middle class. That way they could subsidize the new people who came onto the insurance rolls who needed additional help in order to be able to afford insurance. And just as an example, the ACA subsidies have gone away. The Affordable Care Act subsidies have gone away. We got a letter from our insurance carrier, and we have dog shit insurance right now. But we're just doing that because we're hoping that eventually we'll be making enough money that we can afford a better plan. But we were told by our dog shit insurance company that we were going from $200 a month for a family with the subsidy, which is amazing, by the way. I couldn't believe it was that cheap for a family of 4. Now, our deductible's high, our copay is high, But if we got into like a horrible car accident and we had hundreds of thousands of dollars of medical bills, we would pay like $12,000 out of a $250,000 medical bill, which is still amazing if you have a catastrophic incident. It is going, without the ACA subsidy, it's going from $200 a month to $600 a month. So basically my health insurance premium for a family of 4 is tripling. Now I'll figure it out. I'll figure out how to pay $600, but there are families out there who can't afford that increase in bills. They can't afford, they're barely making it as is. And so if you triple their insurance premiums, regardless of what their insurance premiums are, they're just going to stop paying. They're just going to stop paying and they're just going to go to the emergency room. So Republicans and Democrats are playing with fire right now in reference to the ACA. And I think that Prime is not giving sufficient due deference. While the ACA is a mess and it did make shit more expensive, a whole lot of other people, or a whole bunch of new people, have access to healthcare that they normally would not have. Just to explain my drawing real quick before we get back into the content. This is not to scale, but relatively speaking, I think this is the left-wing coalition. If I had to guess how many people are actually like revolutionary communists in the United States of America, even on the left wing, it would probably be like 2%. I don't think there's that many revolutionary communists, but they do exist and they're very loud on social media. And they want to, through revolution or through anarchic communes, they want to create a moneyless, stateless, classless society. There's no rulers. There's no upper class. You don't have to spend money in order to get commodities. You can just walk into the store, grab stuff, walk away. There's no government because you don't need a government because everybody's getting along. And there's no class. Everybody is equal. Okay, that's like the ideal endpoint of Marxist analysis. And then socialism. There's different socialisms besides Marxist socialism, but let's be real, Marxist socialism is what 99% people are talking about. The goal of socialism is to emancipate or free the working class from the oppressions of capitalism. And they do that by decommodifying basic human needs and workers owning the means of production. So there's a variety of ways that you can do that. Decommodifying basic human needs means that food, water, and shelter is provided. It's just free. You can wake up every single day. You don't have to do anything. You got food, water, and shelter. Okay. And then workers owning the means of production means that there's a market variant where basically you just issue every employee stock in the company. And then there's the authoritarian variant, which arguably the Soviet Union and Maoist China were, where the state directs the economy and the people control the economy through the state. So that's socialism. Social democracy is the Scandinavian countries. It's where you have a super large welfare state and you subordinate the economy to the needs of the people. And if you have a highly productive population, and then you can do this where you just have like a really robust welfare state that takes care of its people. And that works in Scandinavia. A lot of people don't think that the Scandinavian model will work outside of Scandinavia because they have a disproportionately productive society and they have a disproportionate acceptance of high taxation that leads to a robust welfare state. So economically, you could be a conservative social democrat. Like you could be like, hey, I don't like gay people, but I do like social democracy. You could do that. And so it's weird to throw them so far left. But on the economic spectrum, I think they're pretty far left. Progressives, there are a ton of problems in America, including economic and social injustice. It is the role of the progressive to push for reforms that improve society. Some of these reforms are slurred. I think that's self-explanatory. And then, like I said, liberals are mixed economy capitalists who are okay with a moderate tax rate, who support women, racial, sexual, and religious minorities and their freedom and dignity. Now, what some polling has said is that 10% of the Democratic Party identifies as socialist. If I had to guess, I would say of that 10%, so that's representative of 5% of the electorate, probably like 90% of them are social democrats, and then the remaining ones are socialist and communist. And then I think some progressives would probably be social democrats if they understood the policy. And then I think that the progressives are probably half of the Democratic Party. I don't have any polling on this, but I would assume that it is. And then liberals, like I said, are half of the party. And so my frustration with liberals, my frustration with Hutch, my frustration with IRI is I feel like they're catering to this loud, vocal socialist minority, and they're normalizing their ideas. And by sweeping from Amdami, they're normalizing their ideas. And what they're at risk of is that, just like the Groypers and the dissident right and the far right, the Democratic Party is going to be taken over by the far left. And I'm genuinely worried, in an increasingly radicalized social media sphere, they're playing with fire. And Primecayes is representative of that fire.
Definitely much more present when it comes to like stumping for Democrats than you saw from previous presidents. Like how many candidates did like George W. Bush stump for after he kind of Same with like H.W. Bush, Carter, you know, like even Reagan. Like I don't know how alive he stayed. When did he die? In the 90s?
He died in 2005, I think, right?
I mean, but by the time of his second term, he was already kind of like, you know, having the worm tongue wife, you know, astrologying her way.
No, the astrology thing is true. That's true. But the dementia stuff happened, I think, later after his term. But yes, the astrology wife thing is absolutely true.
I just, you know, like I want a Democratic Party that is strong enough to take on the Republican Party right now. And I would love nothing more than to have this party be like a big tent that would allow for people like you, Prime, and also people like IRI. But the way that you speak, it doesn't seem like you're interested in the same thing. You want.
Yep. He wants to eat your face. He is a part of the leopard eating faces party, and he's telling you that.
A more homogenous kind of. Are you trying to take over the Democratic Party, or like what?
Well, I'm certainly trying to take over the Democratic Party. I want more of the power to be in the leftist hands rather than corporate Democrats' hands. However, it doesn't mean that like I would throw IRI out, right? IRI. I mean, first of all, like look at him.
I don't get the wall.
He doesn't get the wall. Look at IRI, right? Like
you got plenty of reading material there while you're waiting.
A face like that, right? No, IRI gets this.
Sorry, Andy B. I've seen you chat in my chat before, so I'm not trying to be too mean. The Jay Jones thing was really blackbilling to me. Dude fantasized about killing children and peeing on their graves. I no longer care about anything Trump could do. Trump has never wanted my kids dead. Yeah, he just killed a bunch of AIDS kids. Who cares, right? They're all African anyways. Dude, this is wild to me. Okay, I'm going to have to... Andy, you've inspired a drawing. I know I just got done with a 10-minute rant, but I have to do a drawing, okay? I have to. It's so funny to me. I do not understand the conservative contrarian brain, okay? Let's say there's Jay Jones. What's his name? Yeah, Jay Jones. Jay Jones. Do we want to pull up his tweet? This is mad funny. Jay Jones text messages. Google Jay Jones text messages. Let's take a look. All right. They say nice things about everyone, lol. If those guys dies before me, I will go to their funerals to piss on their graves, send them out awash in something. Jesus Christ, that's funny. Well, actually, I should say that's fucked up, but Jay Jones. If my opponents die, I will go pee on their graves. Okay. Let's take a look at the next one. 3 people, 2 bullets. Gilbert, Hitler, and Pol Pot. Gilbert gets 2 bullets to the... Listen, man, I know this is a fraught political time, but this is like me talking about like Hassan Piker, where I'm like, I'm in a room with Hitler, Pol Pot, and Hassan Piker, and I shoot Hassan Piker twice. That's what that is. It's literally an office joke. But okay, let's take it on the face value. God damn. That's a spicy meatball. If my opponent was in a room with Hitler and Pol Pot, I would shoot my opponent twice. God, that's like something I would say. Holy shit. All right. So hold on. Let me break this out. That way it's easy viewing. And then there was a kid's tweet, right? Wasn't there a tweet about the kids? Jay, please stop. Lol. Okay. All right. Where's the kid's tweet? Wasn't there a thing where he's like, their kids need to die, that way they understand the outcomes of their policies or something? Where's the kid's tweet? You weren't trying to, okay. You weren't simply asking questions and you know it. I genuinely was. I wasn't attacking you. I was trying to understand your logic. You weren't trying to understand. You were talking about hoping Jennifer Gilbert's children would die. Yes, I've told you this before. Only when people feel pain personally do they move on policy. Okay. So I don't even know. Is there another one? I mean, that's close enough, right? And by the way, here's the apology too. I take full responsibility for my actions and I want to issue my deepest apology to Speaker Gilbert and his family. Reading back those words makes me sick to my stomach. I'm embarrassed, ashamed, and I'm sorry. Okay, so what? He said something that I say on the internet all the time, and then he apologized, but I'm supposed to view this as like a sincere call to war? Okay. If my opponent's children died, that is emotionally necessary for conservatives to change their mind on policy. And all this is, man, is the heat map. That's all it is. That's the heat map. How many times have we seen conservatives? Who is it? The guy who did Dilbert. Dilbert cancer guy. Scott Adams. If I go back and if I look at his policy for, you know, the Africans who got, if I go and check out his USAID and PEPFAR tweets, are his USAID and PEPFAR tweets going to be like, lol, not our responsibility. They're a bunch of Africans and Ukrainians. Who gives a shit? I hope they all die. Ha 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 ha. And even if he doesn't say that himself, would he criticize that sentiment? Would he criticize the Trump admin for yanking out the plug, resulting in hundreds of thousands or millions of unnecessary deaths? I doubt it. And yet this motherfucker, when he has stage 4 cancer and he's staring into oblivion, he asks the Trump administration to speed track a novel cancer treatment so he can avoid dying. So yeah, that's all it is. It's conservatives don't understand painful shit until it hits them or hits their tribe. That's all it is. It's the heat map. Have you seen this? It says that liberals will be overly empathetic to a whole bunch of stuff, including trees and rocks. And conservatives are only empathetic with themselves and people immediately around them. Okay? That's all it is. It's the heat map. It's the heat map in tweet form. But I want to draw this out for you real quick, Andy, because I think your perspective is so silly. So silly. I love you anyways, okay? I love you, Andy, but I want you to think about this, okay? I don't care what Trump does for the rest of his term. Okay. Trump. Best friends with a sex trafficking ephebophile for 30 years. Credibly accused of raping sex trafficked children as young as 14. Somebody said 13. I'll just put 13, but I'll, you know, the one that I read was 14. Then currently covering up 40 sworn written statements from victims of Epstein, along with large swaths of evidence that implicate the world's richest and most powerful people. Withdrew support from Ukraine, resulting in thousands or tens of thousands of deaths, innocent deaths. I'm not even talking about soldiers. I'm talking about civilians. Cut PEPFAR, a program that provides cheap medicine to people with AIDS and prevents births of HIV positive children. This program has been estimated to have saved 25 million lives over the past 25 years. And this cut is projected to kill 30 million people over the next 5 years, many of whom are children under the age of 10, and then cut USAID, which along with PEPFAR is projected to kill 14 million people over the next 5 years. So I just want you to recognize, you're probably not going to, which is fine. I'm assuming the heat map is true. These are Ukrainians. They're not real people. These are Africans. They're not real people. These are people in the Middle East and North Africa. They're not real people. These are people in Bangladesh. They're not real people. They're not Americans, so they're not deserving of your moral consideration. That's the argument that I've heard a billion times from conservatives whenever I bring this shit up. But here's the thing, man. They are real people. They're human beings just like you and me. They were born just like you and me. They have mothers, fathers, brothers, cousins, uncles. They're a part of their community. They go to church. They go to mosque. They go to synagogue. They work their jobs. They pay their taxes. They pay their bills. They consume pop culture. These are real human beings in Africa, in the Middle East and North Africa, in Ukraine, in Eastern Europe, in Malaysia, in Bangladesh. These are real human beings, and they're very similar to you and to me. And so for you, my chat is exclusively 3000 IQ giga chats and giga Stacy's. I have the smartest, biggest donged, biggest boobed chat in Twitch and YouTube politics. We make up for quantity with quality, okay? So the fact that you walk in and you tell me, Jay Jones in a text message that he apologized for says, if my opponents die, I would pee on their graves. If I was in a room with Pol Pot and Hitler and my opponent, I would shoot my opponent twice. That's actually funny to me. And if my opponent's children died, that is emotionally necessary for conservatives to change their mind on policy, which is the heat map. And then if you use the heat map to excuse what's on the right-hand side of the column, I think that's dumb as shit. I think that is very dumb. I've seen you in chat before, so I parasocially love you. I'm sorry if what I say to you is off-putting, but what you said was incredibly silly. Very, very, very silly to me. You're a silly goose.
Stay right.
Thank you.
And I don't demand that everyone agrees with me. I love that people disagree with me. Like, that's fantastic. I love these conversations. I love arguing with my friend Pisco here. It's so enjoyable. But I think that adds to the party, right? I think, and I mean this so deeply, right? I am grateful to my right-wing friends, right, and my liberal friends, right, for arguing against me. I've seen in spaces where left in spaces where like they like cloister themselves and just talk to themselves and they just come up with ideas that are never tested, right? A lot of nonsense comes out of that, right? I appreciate testing my ideas, my arguments, all of that against you all, right? And then I adjust, and I try to get better. I hope the same thing for you. I hope you adjust when we have these conversations, these debates, so we can all sharpen ourselves, right? So yes, I deeply, sincerely want ideological diversity. However, when we're talking about power, when you're talking about like who has power in the Democratic Party, no, I want the power.
But the thing is, like, the substance of Hutch's question, I think, relates to, like, look at the election right now. You have very different Democrats running in different places. Spanberger in Virginia, much more like standard road Democrat, moderate on several issues, explicitly critical of Mamdani. And you have
the Tribe one says, "What the F? I'm a member. Thank you for the soul for gifting me a membership, whoever did it." Thank you, Patriarch, Just Carpet 563, and Grassroots Hegemon for gifting the shit out of our chat. So it was probably Grassroots Hegemon or Patriarch. I also want to thank Christian Valeris for oiling. Thank you, King. Just Carpet 563 with the membership, the gifted membership. Anonymous Chatter for the 20. Doobie for the 100, and Audacity for the 10. I couldn't do this shit without you guys, and your generosity is insane. I'm also going to plug the GoFundMe one more time. I'm going to plug it a few more times, but here is a GoFundMe. It's for a community member, King Solidus. He needs around $2,000 for medical expenses. His shoulder is effed up. He's a working class guy. He has a family. The Oilers have already oiled both in my chat and for Mr. Solidus. So I do not expect the Oilers to oil again. I'm not asking the Oilers to oil. I'm saying if you got $5, you got $10, you got $20, you got whatever, please give it to Mr. Jorge to help him out with his family. Please and thank you. Parasocial love.
Gavin Newsom, a kind of, I don't know, hybrid in terms of like very left-wing policies, but also more practical. And you have Mamdani. And I think the essence of what Hutch's question is getting at is he genuinely is willing to accept in good faith and be like, oh, great, Mamdani won. Are you going to be happy if Abigail Spanberger wins in Virginia? Are you going to be happy if, like, I don't know, let's say Josh Shapiro wins in Pennsylvania? Or if, if Gavin Newsom runs for re-election or something in California, would you be happy that they win? In the spirit that Hutch is, I think, genuinely happy that Mamdani would win.
I vote for corporate Democrats all the time. That's all my choices have been growing up, right? Is voting for a corporate Democrat. I have a corporate Democrat, like a House representative in my district, right? Total backbenchers, done nothing. If I told you their name, you'd have to. These political junkies would have to look them up. They have no idea who this person is, right? But yeah, I'll vote for him again. I voted for someone else in the primary against them previously because they were super interesting. But they got crushed, which was expected. But like, yeah, I'll vote for that corporate Democrat. Like, and I can understand that. Again, we need people.
You know what's weird? Christian Lara says it'll never happen, but goddamn, would a combo with Counterpoints be so effing based? You know what's funny is Riley Grace Rochong is friends with Natalie. So Natalie's kind of reclusive, and I would feel weird asking Riley for Contra's contact. But if we ever get big enough that Contra bumps into my content and is interested in my content, I could see me, if she ever replied to anything I tweeted, if she ever DM'd me and said, hey, I really like this take, number one, I would ask for the conversation. Number two, I would back channel it through Riley Grace Rochong and say, hey, can you hook up a Natalie conversation?
All types for different areas of the country, right? I can understand that my ideas don't necessarily resonate everywhere, and so we should be putting people in front of them, in front of those audiences who have a better chance, right? But that also doesn't mean that we necessarily have to accept everything. That we should have some level of standards, and I think my standards might be different from your standards, but we can argue about that later.
No, it's not about standards. It's about like the tone. It's just a very. You're talking about. You're talking about.
I love that.
I'm literally tone here. No, but you're talking about like Hochul like coming in there and bending the knee.
Absolutely.
That's just an interesting way to phrase that, don't you think? I mean, I feel like
it's a fun way, a colorful way of
it's a colorful way, but it doesn't really
by referencing popular.
If a centrist talks to you that way, if Hutch talked to you that way, if it rolls a reverse, like, yeah, Bernie Sanders bent the knee.
Yeah,
no, but like, the thing is, if after the primary, you would caught Hutch saying something like, yeah, you Bernie bros, now bend the knee to Biden or something. Because by the way, some people did say this.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I understand, but you didn't take.
Yeah, Badusai says, I remember my dad telling me a story about how he took a call from a teacher who was trying to shop around and get her Medicaid insurance, or medical insurance, not Medicaid, insurance cheaper than $14 a month. Yeah, that's insane.
Take it in a positive way. That wasn't.
I'm not asking Hochul or you all to take it in a positive way. Take it in a negative way. Go ahead. Don't care.
No, but I'm trying to make an observation.
I'm just like expressing myself.
I keep getting cut off.
To be fair, you cut him off too. But go ahead.
He cut me off when I was talking.
It's okay. I'll cut each other off here.
I feel like the tone is kind of like it's wildly out of step with the reality. Like the reality is you got this guy, and it's true. He is an exciting candidate, and I've been a great admirer of his campaign and the way that he's just evolved. And I look at him and I get excited. But this is a guy with like 55% of the New York City voter base are going to probably choose him in the upcoming election. And it feels like you're doing the thing that I see a lot of lefties doing, which is you're treating Mamdani as though he's this like herald of a political revolution. And the reality is it's like he's,
Oh, yeah. You think the Snap thing isn't having your kids dead for political points? So true. I didn't even think about Snap. Let's pull up Paint real quick. Recent Jay Jones versus Trump. This is so crazy, bro. I can't believe I have to write this. We will not negotiate with Democrats on emergency room reimbursements for illegal aliens, comma. What's the other thing? Illegal alien reimbursements for that thing. People getting kicked off of Medicaid. I think it was like 10 million people. 10 million people. And what was the other one? I don't remember the other one, but let's leave. Oh, and then ACA subsidy. So 42 million people are gonna starve, laugh my fucking ass off. Like, dude, this is so crazy. Like, I don't know how you say this shit with a straight face unless you're just totally ignorant of the situation. Because that's what's going on, okay? So this is my understanding of it, and feel free to correct me in chat. The Republicans, they enforced a hardcore work requirement for Medicaid, and they also said that if you're not disabled, you don't, and you're of a certain age group, you don't qualify for Medicaid. So effectively, they said this entire class of people no longer qualify for Medicaid, and they kicked 10 million people off of Medicaid. So what that means is you either got to go get a job, or you have to work through a disability claim, or you have to disability. Yeah, you have to work through a disability claim. You have to get a job, or you have to work get a disability claim working. Well, a disability claim takes time. So in the meantime, people who are genuinely disabled, but who haven't gone through the paperwork process yet, they just don't have health insurance. So their only health insurance is the emergency room. And this is around 10 million Americans. Okay. And then they also, all the state subsidies for health insurance for illegal aliens, as far as I know, maybe California, maybe Illinois, maybe other states are more progressive than this. But as far as I know, there's state programs, and I think to some degree there were federal programs that said that since emergency rooms are legally compelled to treat everybody, we will reimburse emergency rooms who treat illegal aliens who cannot afford or do not have the information in order to pay their medical bills. That's the illegal alien health care, as far as I know. And the Republicans have cut that. They've said, no, we're not going to give you federal tax dollars. That way you can reimburse your state level coffers for giving emergency room treatment to illegal aliens. All that doesn't change what emergency rooms are forced to do. That just means that emergency rooms are forced to treat people and then not get paid, which is obviously going to increase the cost for everybody. So that's another very R-slurred policy. And then also the ACA subsidy. I don't know if that was a part of the continuing resolution or not, but effectively, as a result of the government shutdown, the Affordable Care Act subsidy has disappeared. And so everybody's costs for the ACA is going up. And so we've effectively like fleeced and screwed the working class in the most aggressive way possible for the government shutdown. And the Democrats have said, screw you. We're not going along with this. We will not vote for a continuing resolution until you negotiate with us in order to fix some of this healthcare stuff. And the Republicans have said, no, lol. And as a result, food stamps have got cut off. And as a result of food stamps getting cut off, 42 million Americans who are reliant on food subsidies in order to eat, they just got cut off within the past week. So they're raiding food pantries right now, trying to survive. And that's it. And then until either the Democrats blink or the Republicans blink, 42 million people just aren't getting food. We might see a correlated spike in crime when the food pantries run out. And so again, whoever that was, whoever made that comment, oh, Jay Jones sent some edgy text messages about wanting his opponent killed and, wanting his opponent's kids killed. Look at this shit. What's worse, an edgy text message or 42 million people starving? What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? Crazy perspective.
Got kind of like middling popularity for a New York City mayor, and someone like Hochul is in a much stronger position than he is, quite frankly.
Well, wait, Prime, before you respond, Hutch, I got to turn the question around that I already asked Prime, which is, if Mamdani gets into office and everything goes really fucking well, every single policy is just like, wow, like all the things the progressives have been calling for, then would you kind of start to shift over of, oh, maybe we should move more towards like a populist progressive for not every Democrat, obviously, but more of the already on the left wing should push a little harder, Democrats?
It's a case by case. Just
come on, Badusai, you're not even trying, bro. The difference is those who indirectly cause deaths compared to those who want to make killing kids legal. Hold on, are you talking about abortion, or are you saying Jay Jones wanted to make murder legal? What are you saying, bro? What are you saying? TL1524 says, every time I see Connor do a drawing, I think about that SNL skit of Matt Damon playing Brett Kavanaugh crying over his calendars because he worked so hard on them. That's me, bro. That's me.
Like what Prime said, I don't know if he applied it in the same way, but it's a case by case. So if there's a progressive that's thriving and, you know, another like D+30 city or whatever, or D+30 district, then yeah, sure, of course. Like I'm not picky. That's the point. I'm not ideologically picky right now. I don't think that really matters right now, to be honest.
Randy says, is it morally bad to ask what percentage of Snap users are taking advantage of the program? I don't know, man. I don't care. You can ask. And if there's people abusing the system, obviously we should criticize that abuse and probably try to minimize the abuse through good policy. But when you're talking about Snap, okay, let's talk about how much does SNAP and TANF cost the federal government per year? So it is $100 billion and $16 billion on TANF. TANF is temporary assistance for needy families, and SNAP, I don't know what, supplemental nutritional assistance program. So 120 billion. 120 000 what is that, million? Yeah, that's 1,000 million billion divide by 6 trillion. So 1,000 million billion trillion. It's 2% of the budget, Randy. So this is my question to you. You give $1 to the federal government, okay? Every dollar that you give to the federal government is split between a variety of programs. 2 cents of that dollar goes to guaranteeing that Americans are able to eat. Let's just say that there's some abuse of the system. There's some people who are lazy, they don't want to work, they're not even really disabled, they're able-bodied, they're pieces of shit. They want to sit on their asses. They want to watch cable TV. They don't want to do anything, and they want to eat. But there's also, I would seriously say it's around 40 to 60% of people who are on TANF and people who are on SNAP, they work. They're working families. They just make so little money, they still qualify for food stamps. So let's just say that it's 2/3. Let's say it's 2 to 1. One of them is a mooch, and 2 of them are some of the hardest working people in the United States. Are you okay with 2 cents of every dollar you give the federal government? Number one, making sure that nobody starves. But number two, in the most hyperbolic lens possible, 2 of the people are the most hardworking people in the United States of America, and one of them is a mooch. For me, I would pay that shit all day. That makes sense to me. That makes a shitload of sense to me. 2 cents on every dollar guarantees that no Americans starve, and one of them is a degenerate piece of crap, but 2 of them are hardworking people. That makes sense to me. I'm good.
Policy discussions and ideology take a backseat for me right now in the era of MAGA to just beating Republicans. You laugh, but look at Trump 2.0, bro.
Well, I know the threat of Trump, right? And so we should have no standards, I guess, right? Policy doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter what we're
not what I said.
Oh, then okay. So I don't want to be bad faith. I'm not trying to be bad faith. I'm trying to engage with you. Yeah, okay, right? So maybe I misunderstood you. But what you just told me was that policy doesn't matter in this age, right? It's just about beating Trump, right? And what it sounds like to me,
that doesn't matter. I said
you can correct me in just a second, right? But what it sounds like to me is that saying, well, as long as they have a D in front of their name, right? Well, that's good enough. Let's replace them.
Okay, they weren't tweets; they were text messages.
As many R's with D's, it makes no difference of what they bring to the table.
It's up to the.
Thank you, Andy B. I knew I loved you. Andy B says, voted for Trump in 16, didn't vote in 20 and 24 because I was disgusted by him. Sorry if I moral frogged on you, Andy B. I still love you. I still love you.
The individual voters of each state and district that choose their primary winner. That's the point. So if the voters in a conservative district choose a more moderate candidate, great, I'm on board. And if they stand a better chance to beat a Republican in that district, awesome, great. And the same thing goes for progressives. Like that's where I'm at with things. I'm talking about like an actual coalition instead of what you're talking about.
Listen, okay, I need to apologize to Andy B. I hope he's still here, okay? Politics, unfortunately, in the United States is a binary, all right? You make your choice between two camps with lesser of two evils. Now, I think that's necessary if you buy into the concept of harm reduction. Yes, baby? Okay. Because? Pneumonia. Okay. Do you need me to wrap up early? What's today? So is it early day? Okay. Can I go until 1? Okay. Okay, cool. Chat, it's going to be a little bit of an earlier day. My wife is sick and she thinks she has pneumonia, which is where fluid fills up in your lungs. She's had it before. It's not fun. And so I'm going to have to wrap up at 1 p.m. today. So my apologies. I'll be leaving an hour early, but I gotta take care of the kids while she goes to urgent care. So anyways, quick chill time. Like the stream, share it with your friends, engage with chat, super chats if you got them, memberships if you got them. King Solidus is a community member who has a GoFundMe. So if you want to donate to me, donate to me. If you want to donate to King Solidus in order to help him out with his medical issues, then donate to King Solidus. We already have plenty of oil today. So if you've already oiled, do not oil again. If you got $5, $10, $20, whatever, and you just want to throw it our way, do so. Subri Keller has been a member before, so I think they renewed their membership. And I just want to thank Audacity for the 10, Doobie for the 100. Doobie making it rain. Doobie making it rain, okay? Then Anonymous Chatter with the 20. He's another oiler. Thank you. Just Carpet 563 gifted a membership. Thank you kindly. And Christian Valera's oiled this morning with $100 to the chat. And then he also oiled in King Solidus's GoFundMe. So thank you to the Oilers for oiling. What's that? Oh, it's a baby gecko. I thought it was a leaf. He's super cute, though. Oh, my God, he's cute. I'm happy you got him. Thank you. We get lizards in our house sometimes, so we have to capture them and put them outside. And my wife just captured a baby gecko who's super cute, and she's putting it outside right now. Anyways. Sorry for the yap. Sorry, Andy B, for being mean. And getting back to the lesser of two evils, I understand that some people, the way that they view voting, they do not want to vote for the lesser of two evils because they do not want to be complicit in the evil of the lesser of two evils. I understand that. I understand that morally. I thought that way for a really, really, really long time. So if I seem overly aggressive and kind of douchey, it's because I'm thinking with lesser of two evils mindset. Andy B, if you're still here, my apologies for being a douche. But I do get frustrated when we compare current MAGA Republican policy versus Democratic policy. And the Democrats, as bad and cringe and stupid as they are, I'm just going to say it, they're not as bad as MAGA. Not right now, anyways.
Which is just this kind of delusional fantasy that there's going to be this leftist takeover of the party. So, and it's not really like based on anything right now.
So you've been putting words in my mouth like this entire time, right? I haven't said anything about that some sort of leftist revolution was about to happen, right? I just said, hey, like we got one person in and I'm nervous about it because, you know, when you're actually given a chance to govern, then you can be held accountable for it. That's all I've said so far. I didn't say anything else, right? And so this is why I'm trying to understand you, right? And what you actually mean. So like it doesn't, if we have a coalition, example, just talking about like the Senate, just to narrow it down a bit, we have like a.
When did Scott Adams run for office? Dude, he's a prominent political commentator. Like, if we're gonna play the Scott Adams game, then we can just go back to the Trump thing. Okay, so I'm saying that there's a conservative hypocrisy in the heat map where you only give a shit about people dying if they're close to you. Now, it could be a temperamental thing. It could be a genetic thing. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just a thing, all right? Conservatives care about themselves and they care about people immediately around them. That seems to be like a pretty normal, natural impulse. Liberals empathize with like trees and rocks and shit. And if you smoke pot and if you do a bunch of acid, or if you're a Taoist, that probably makes sense. So the truth is, you should probably be in the middle. You should probably recognize that, again, centrism for the fucking win. You should probably recognize that the most important people to me are my family. Okay. I love you guys. I do. I parasocially love you guys. I recognize your names. We hang out almost every single day. You help me pay my bills. You watch my content. You comment, all that kind of stuff. I have parasocial love for you. And I hope you have parasocial love for me. Okay. That being said, my wife is more important than you. Hate to say it. My kids are more important than you. And so I have the conservative mindset when it comes to that, where my kids and my wife are more important than people who I know through the internet. And I'm sure that my level of empathy, as it extends out to people who are further and further distance from me, the level of empathy I have reduces substantively. However, if you reach a certain threshold and you're still human, or you're a sapient being, or even a living creature, it doesn't matter if you're on another planet. I still have some level of moral consideration for you. And my frustration with MAGA is that they seem to endorse their own sociopathy, where if they don't have moral consideration for people outside of a certain orbit, they view that as some kind of virtue. And I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Laughing about people dying overseas is not virtue. It's just cruelty. Anyways. So if you want to say Scott Adams isn't an elected official, so we don't care about his personal behavior, okay, Trump's an elected official. Trump is the leader of the Republican Party. That's why I spend so much of my time criticizing him. Boom. Let's go.
A 51-49 advantage in the Senate. But like we have another
AKA Batusai says Republicans aren't against treating cancer. Okay. What about cancer research? Cancer research cuts 2025. Per a May 2025 U.S. Senate Minority Staff Report, the federal government cut approximately $3 billion in funding over the first 3 months of 2025, including a 31% decrease in the funding of cancer research through March of 2025. Cool.
Another mansion, another cinema, and maybe others as well, who like sabotage the Democrats, right? And the most crucial of moments, to the point that they like these things reverberate into the future, because like we didn't get crucial legislation through, and weren't actually able to deliver on our promises while being in power, right? You'd say that's fine, right? Because at least we have a D. It's a Democratic Senate rather than a Republican Senate.
You understand that Biden was legislatively like the most accomplished president, basically of the modern era, right? And he did that specifically because Manchin was serving in West Virginia. I mean, I think like the question would be like, do you envision a progressive challenger coming in and actually making the kind of like winning the kind of election that Manchin did? Could you replace him with a progressive? Is my point or my question.
I've literally already acknowledged previously that you couldn't. We should
Hey, play nice. Don't be mean to Andy B.
Have people in place who can speak to those audiences.
We can object to the perspective and call it silly without being dickheads. Okay?
As best we can. However, I say we have to have standards. No, I wouldn't say Manchin was a good idea, because Manchin actively sabotaged the Democrats. And
well, he voted for Biden's agenda and his judges the overwhelming majority of the time. But like you understand that without a majority, you can't get any judges or legislation.
Oh, yes, I understand that. Don't worry. You don't have to condescend to me. I get it. Yeah.
Well, the way you talk makes me question that, because you're saying it was a bad thing that he was serving there, right?
Let me just interrupt. A quick pause. Simmer it down. Hutch, I do feel that a lot of the things being levied at Prime right now are 90% dumber progressives that I've seen on Twitter. I haven't heard Prime say these things yet. So I feel...
Wait, no, hang on. He just said that it was a bad thing that Manchin was serving in West Virginia.
I think what he's saying is that people like Manchin can sabotage an otherwise better agenda, which is true, and why Trump was someone who thanked Manchin for a lot of what he did, even though Manchin was instrumental in getting a lot of Biden's stuff passed as well. We would prefer to have someone better.
Andy B says, I agree with the PEPFAR cuts being messed up. I disagree with it and think it's gross. Correct. I would not trade my children's lives for any of the other people. Yeah, Andy B. I'm sorry if I know Lethal Lance is being a little spicy, but you know, I'm not trying to be too spicy to you, okay? And I also understand that there's a different moral calculation here. I'm not going to bother drawing it, but I just want you guys to understand that I think in Obama, was Obama 8 and 12? I think I didn't vote in 12. And can I tell you a story? Can I tell you a story, chat? I want to tell you a story, okay? So in the Marine Corps, all right, the Marine Corps is filled with dudes. It's 20-1 dudes, all right? But the recruiter says that you are going to get your dress blues and you're going to travel the world and you're going to meet all kinds of different women and you're going to have a social adventure that is going to be amazing. And what ends up happening, at least in my case, is Okinawa, because we were locked down from midnight to 5 a.m., and also we had very strict liberty behaviors that we were allowed to do. And we had to have a battle buddy with us at all times. If you were under the rank of corporal and you did not have a gold liberty card, you had to have a battle buddy at all times. And so as a result, I spent 90% of my time with dudes, lots of dudes, very gay, very Marine Corps is very gay. Now it's a top gay organization, but it's a very gay organization. And then I ended up in Iraq with dudes, right? So what got me through that partially was fantasizing about, oh, I'm going to get to college. I'm going to get to college. There's going to be tons of girls. We're going to drink. We're going to party. We're going to have a good time. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. The fantasy of the American Pie style college party was getting me through my very gay experience in the Marine Corps, okay? Once again, I want to emphasize that the Marine Corps is gay, but it's filled with tops, okay? So 2011, I guess, is the second Obama election, and I'm at the perfect house party, okay? I'm single. People are doing keg stands. I think it's Halloween, so everybody's dressed up to the 10s. Everybody's wearing some crazy outfit. And there's a hot Pocahontas, and there's a hot Disney princess, I forget who. And we're standing in a circle by the keg, and we're talking. And we're talking about politics. And they were like, oh, did you vote? I was like, no. Like, I didn't vote. Like, I actually view voting as like an extreme responsibility. You're effectively you're putting your willpower behind the state, and you are giving them license to act in your name. So regardless of whether or not you click Republican or click Democrat, you are voting for someone to act in your name, and through your vote, you are buying into that thing. And I basically said, there's some things about Obama that make me uncomfortable. There was, I think it was McCain at the time. I don't know who the other guy was, but there were some things about McCain that made me uncomfortable. Also, I didn't know enough about policy. And so as a result, I did not want to lend my moral weight behind a choice. And so what ended up happening was Pocahontas and that hot princess were not very smart. I was very disappointed in the quality of the conversation. But if I was willing to not vote back then, I have no doubt that there are people who feel similarly to me, where regardless of the lesser of two evils calculus, regardless of what's going on in the country at the time, they do not feel comfortable lending their moral weight to things that they think are evil. So for instance, I did wrestle with the fact that if a Harris administration achieved a trifecta and they passed gun control, I would be partially responsible for that outcome. By shilling for her election campaign and by voting for her, I would be partially responsible for that outcome. And that's not an outcome I want. And especially if you're religious or super social conservative and you view all abortion as infanticide, I could understand all of the calculated reasons for why a Democratic presidency would have been better than a second Trump term. And I do view the outcomes as disastrous. Trump is worse than I thought he would be. And yet, I could not castigate a religious person for saying I couldn't vote for Trump, but I also could not vote for Harris or the Democrats because I'm so passionate about being pro-life. I would understand that impulse. So, anyways, a quick note on the awesome house party I was at. What was interesting about that is the fact that you have a fantasy of what college is going to be or what anything is going to be. You have a fantasy about what the Marine Corps is going to be. You have a fantasy about what college is going to be. The reality of it, even if it aesthetically looks like the fantasy that you had in your mind, the reality of it is going to be so much more mundane and boring than the fantasy. The fantasy will always be more attractive than the reality. Just sharing.
If he's the best we can get, sure, that's great. We don't want a Republican
but you're glossing over that. Like, if he's the best we can get, then we should welcome that, right?
Welcome it, sure, but not be like.
He disagrees. Prime disagrees. That's my point. He doesn't want to welcome that, right?
So, I don't know. Okay, it depends on what you mean by welcome.
Pneumonia. What happened to old monia? Nice.
I'm not trying to dodge the question. I promise you. I'm just trying to work out what we're saying here. I wouldn't take away his Senate seat, right? Like, hey, like you've come in, like people voted you in, right? I wouldn't say like, okay, now because he doesn't agree with me ideologically, the Senate should like somehow toss him out, right? I'm not saying anything like that. But like what the conversation started was that you specifically said, in terms of your view of like
coalitions,
like the
how many alligators are in my living room? Not very many. I don't have any inside my house, but there's such a good picture. Can I pull it up? I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull up a picture of me holding a baby alligator as a police officer, and I'm gonna tell that story when we're done with this segment. AKA Batusai arigatou gozaimasu akimashite sumimasen chisai chin chin. For the tax man. Thank you, AKA Batusai. I parasocially love you.
The coalition and the larger battle, right? That it doesn't matter at all who comes in, right? So like, I'll turn it back on you, right? Like if instead we had a whole list of Democrats who won, who were like pro-segregationists, you'd say like, well, I welcome them within the party, right? They have a D in front of their name, not an R, and so thank you. Like, please let's fill up with pro-segregationists. You're welcome here.
I know I haven't commented on the content in a while, but this has been like a lefty liberal infighting thing, and I did do some very beautiful drawings for you. Right now, what I will say, though, is the way that Primecayes feels about segregationists is straight up the way that I feel about socialists. I don't want them anywhere near me. If we align on a policy and we check the same voting box for pragmatic purposes, I will excuse me. I will accept the fact that socialists and communists are in an electoral coalition with me in order to achieve a specific result. But the way that he feels about segregationists is the way that I feel about socialists. I don't want these motherfuckers anywhere near me.
I mean, we'd be going back to the Democratic Party of, 5 or 6 decades ago, right?
Sorry, that didn't answer my question. Would you welcome?
Oh, the answer is probably yes. Yeah.
For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can feed Connor's children. Based.
In context, that wouldn't you rather have the New Deal and the Great Society stuff than not, Prime?
Sorry, sorry, stop trying to dodge the question.
Wait, isn't the answer yes?
I'm not.
No, it's not. We're not time traveling because now he's like, oh, now we're going back in time. No, we're not doing that. I'm saying, hey, like for 2025, right, or into 2026, we have brand new pro-segregationists coming into the Democratic Party. Would you welcome them because they have a D in front of their name instead of R? He says no. Disco says no. Hutch, what about you?
Maybe. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Yeah. So that's a difference of opinion here, right? Like I'm against segregationists no matter what decade it is.
Well, do you? I mean, I don't want to get hung up too much. We can move on to the next topic. But like, do you think that Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes.
Okay. And so,
well, Hutch, let me clear it up, right? Because Hutch, the reason you would say yes.
Stuff, but go ahead.
Okay, but tell me if I'm wrong, Hutch. The reason you would ever say yes to a pro-segregationist Democrat is because what's on the other side is now the right has moved so far, even past segregation, of we're doing segregation and a lot more worse stuff, right? Not right now, everything the same, but you would welcome a segregationist Democrat?
Damn. Say that question again. I'm not
right now, every policy on the right remains the same. I do think this is like we're fascist, treading into fascism, but they haven't, said they're going to bring back segregation yet. They're teasing the idea of miscegenation, revisiting that.
But we're talking about fascism, right? Like when we talk about fascism, we should get into the specifics, right? What does that actually look like?
Right. But if the Democrats are pro-segregationists, that's worse than the current right-wing party.
You're saying that if we had, like, for example, like thankfully there are no emerging segregationist Democrats. I'm happy to entertain your hypothetical, but even if we were to do this hypothetical,
ridiculous.
Like you're saying that, like, let's say like one or two like segregationist Democrats emerge and all of a sudden they were competitive in like fucking Nebraska or Missouri. You're saying that us adding that to like get a Senate majority would be worse than the MAGA movement right now? In terms of like what?
Hutch. Sorry. Maybe I'm getting pneumonia. Hutch is just correct. Damn, I can't find this picture, okay? I have it for police. I'm going to show you guys a different picture, though. All right? I'm going to show you a different picture. This is me, my first or second day in law enforcement, okay? This is me getting a reward for catching a bunch of burglars. And here's me in a sewer drain, okay? And the story behind the sewer drain is there was a cat stuck in the sewer drain. And so I deadlifted like a 100-pound sewer grate. I got little meat, little deli meats that the neighbors had. And we put meat in order to get the cat out of the sewer drain. So this is shit that you can only do as a local cop. If you're a sheriff, you don't have time to be trying to get cats out of sewer grates. But we literally did not have another call at the time. And so I was actually kind of proud of this moment. Now, there's another photo floating around of me with a black garden snake that was trapped in the the police station drive area. He was absolutely going to get hit by another car. And then the photo that I wanted to show you, but I need to pull it up on a different thing of social media. I'll find it later. There's a baby alligator, okay? And let's summarize this real quick, and then let's wrap the segment, and then let me tell you the alligator story. So in reference to this thing, man, and probably the most important drawing that I drew, this one's good, but the other one is better. Let me pull it up. So the left-wing coalition. This is the most important thing. And whenever we take a look at lefty infighting content, this is what we're talking about, all right? So liberals are easily half of the party, maybe more. Progressives are probably 30 to 40% of the party. Progressive social democrats or socialists are probably, I don't know, 10, 20% of the party. And then communists are like 2%. They're really not that big. I don't know what the numbers add up to, but bear in mind, communists are not that big. They're just very loud. Socialists are not very big. They're just very loud. Most socialists are actually sock dems. They just don't know what words mean. And so the liberals, while they're trying to build this coalition so they can all vote in the same direction, they have to like decide how much they're going to cater to communists and socialists. And my frustration is, I would say MAGA has lost their fucking minds. Sorry for the F-bomb. They've lost their minds so bad. Eject the communists. Eject the hardcore revolutionary socialists. We can tolerate the libertarian socialists, I guess. Try to chill the progressives out and then reach out to conservatarians, libertarians, never Trump Republicans, and neoconservatives. And then basically you could probably add more people to your coalition than whoever you lost by kicking communists out. And what's frustrating for me with the Mamdani victory and liberals celebrating the Mamdani victory is that they're celebrating somebody from this part of the political spectrum becoming relevant in national level politics. That's scary to me. I gotta go. Parasocial love. Bye, guys.